it is International Women's Day, and it is myself and Sadhana Smiles having a candid conversation around, I guess, the real world ramifications of gender equality and what that actually means for International Women's Day. I think as a celebration, Sadhana, what are we actually celebrating when
that's the point. And I think we've done this, and I've done this in the past myself. I've sent out International Women's Day, Happy International Women's Day as part of my marketing campaign, etc. But I think we've got to really stop and think, what are we celebrating? Because if you just have a look at the stats in our country, are we celebrating the fact that 1 woman a week continues to be killed in Australia? And that has been the case for a significant period of time now, despite the work that's been done by many victims and survivors of this. We still see that as a pretty average number year on. The national pay gap sits at about 13.3% according to the Workplace Gender Equality Agency. Women retire on 23% less super because of that, and that's according to the ATO in 2022. And the property industry pay gap sits at 15%, which is higher than the national pay gap. Now, in a survey that I published a few years ago now, where we interviewed 209 women across the sector, and I don't believe these numbers have changed that much, 52% had experienced inappropriate behaviour in the workplace, 70% wanted shareholding, but only 36% had the opportunity to buy in, and 83% were interested in leadership roles, but they weren't being given the opportunities. So what are we celebrating? And I can tell you right now, that if from a year from now we come back and we have this conversation again, those numbers wouldn't have changed that much at all. So is it a celebration, or do we need to stop and ask ourselves the question, who are the brave leaders globally, nationally, and in your sector who are prepared to make a different decision to genuinely change those numbers? Because that's my question.
And I think that is a great question that people really, if you take something from this episode, take that. Look inwards and what your own business is doing, because it's pretty easy to champion the women who are, already doing great things. And there's no stopping that. We do the same thing here on The Wire. We talk to those women who are doing amazing things out there in the industry, but there's that whole layer of other, there's the rest of the population as well. We're only seeing one little sort of small snapshot of that, and the fact that these stats still exist is scary from my perspective. And suddenly, you've been around a lot longer than me, but I don't think that this will change in my lifetime either. Like, I cannot see anything being done to actually materially impact anything.
And I think that's what frustrates me, is I look at women at your age group, and you have the same challenges that I had 20 years ago, and you have to ask the question, well, what are we celebrating? Why are we celebrating it? And if men don't stand side by side with us to make the changes, then this is never going to change. And I will retire, you will be in my position, and you'll be having the same conversation with the next woman who's in your position. And you will reflect on this conversation and go, damn it,
it's
almost right.
Like, well, really, this could be a time capsule, couldn't it? This conversation that we're having right now, the same conversation could have happened 20 years ago, could have easily happened 50 years ago, and people would still listen to it and go, oh, what's the relevance? Like, that's still what society's like. One part that you talked about in your op-ed is that as we head towards International Women's Day, take note of how many men roll their eyes when you talk about it or don't feel comfortable participating, and invariably make the comment, what about International Men's Day? Which, by the way, is on 19th of November. And it's true. You see all these, female-focused events, but where are the men?
Well, I think women need to take one bloke with them, right? Because, and I've said this for many, many years, we can't change this without the men standing with us, which means at these events that we go to, we've got to have equal numbers of men in the room who understand the issues from our perspective and are happy to mentor and sponsor women into roles, demand parity for them in their organisations, so that we significantly start to change the dial. Without men doing that, and if you look at, if you look at our industry, or you look at nationally in Australia, we have more male leaders and male CEOs and directors of businesses. So they do have to step up and ensure these changes are made, because without them doing so, we don't have a hope in hell of getting any of this done.
But really, at its essence, they are the ones with the power.
100%.
This situation.